Hey everybody, what's up? I'm here today with an amazing singer, songwriter, guitar player. He's a triple threat, Mr. Kyle Daniel.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here.
Dude.
I don't know if I've seen you since we wrote our first song together. It's on your new album.
Yeah. It took off. We let it fly and it kind of caught some wings and got a little air up under it. So yeah. I'm excited.
So let's just back up and talk about how did little Kyle get started in music?
My parents, my dad actually learned how to play the banjo by the Murphy method cassette tapes back in mid 80s when my mom was pregnant with me. And so he would, pick around and play to her stomach. And, supposedly the old tale was that I would kick and go wild at specific songs, So I think that it kind of got implanted in my DNA before I even really came here. So,
but who wouldn't kick when they hear banjo?
Exactly. Yeah. Shucking the corn was, I think, my favorite one. And so, and he, got to the point where they would have little bluegrass jams and things, and we would go to the lake, and it was a wild time. I remember it being quite the rowdy time when I was a young man. But I, of course, wanted to play the fiddle. I remember giving up my pacifier one Christmas for fiddle. And and then it kind of progressed into wanted to be like my older brother. So I started to play the drums when I was like 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
Couldn't even reach the kick pedal from the seat. And
so did you have a family band?
No, my dad just played banjo and was, in the construction world by profession. And this was just something that they did on the weekends that was fun. And so we would go to different bluegrass festivals. My parents always kind of backpacked me around and would take me to different things and experience, different shows. But no, it wasn't. I looking back on it, it sounds like I have a very musical family, but I think that there were just those moments when each person was into something and I kind of followed suit at that time. And then I was big into baseball early on. I played baseball all-stars, touring, traveling teams, and I ended up ending my career my freshman year of high school and broke my leg, and that was when I found the guitar. And so it just kind of felt more natural than anything that I had picked up to date. I tried early on. I tried keys. I played saxophone at school and did all kinds
too. I didn't know that. We got that in common.
Yeah, I loved it. And I think that I was always drawn to the melody makers.
Yes.
I think that it started with fiddle and I had obviously a recorder in school and saxophone and I played xylophone. And that percussion, wanting to be like my older brother, kind of gave me, I feel like, a little bit of an upper hand on my buddies who didn't really kind of start there, that it gave a backbone for a solid, rhythmic connection to the guitar. Mm-hmm. And so once I was able to kind of find my way around the neck, it just felt very natural.
Yeah.
So that was it in a nutshell. At 16, found the guitar and never looked back.
Was this in Kentucky?
Yeah, in Bowling Green. Grew up with a healthy music community, Cage the Elephant, obviously, being the biggest band that came out of Kentucky, or our area, rather. And Blackstone Cherry, lots of Morning Teleportation was a group that was kind of in the jam band scene. Just a lot of very rich music history, Duck Butter, Sam Bush, the Newgrass Revival guys, and Curtis Birch, and the Kentucky Headhunters, and of course, up to our north, we've got My Morning Jacket and all that stuff. But I feel like Kentucky has kind of started to really show itself as a music state. We've and an eclectic one at that. You've got some rock and roll coming out of South Central Kentucky that you would never think that sound would come out of what a lot of people perceive Kentucky to be.
Yeah. And it's not far. Bowling Green's right above Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
It's not too far from Nashville.
Yeah.
How did you go from Kentucky musician, artist to Nashville? I know you lived in East Nashville for a while.
Yeah. I went to MTSU and got a music business degree because my old man said, look, this music thing's fine, right? But you need a backup plan. You need something to fall back on if at any point you feel like that it's not going to work for you, and you need to be able to at least support yourself and a family. So I did the music business program at MTSU, and then had a college band. We all decided that we were going to move to Nashville, the big city, and be the rock and roll ragamuffins that we were at the time. And our manager actually was renting a house that was kind of our band house. We would rehearse like 4 or 5 times a week, and just got to the point where we kind of hit a ceiling, I feel like. And before we all started to really get at each other, we decided to kind of call it quits and go separate ways. And then I ended up using my degree for a little while, doing some tour management with a group called Vintage Trouble, who was signed with Doc McGee. And we did, the Who Quadrophenia tour, and
Wow.
I got to see a lot of the United States with those dudes, and Canada. I didn't go overseas with them because they had a UK merch guy, but it was really a good learning experience for me to learn that that was a lot of hard work to chase someone else's dream at
Right.
the time. And kind of decided at one point after I had stepped up into the tour management world and absolutely gotten eaten alive on the Taylor Swift Red Tour, that was not my bag. That was just not.
I sense there's a story behind the Taylor Swift.
That's another episode, that it was just like, I wasn't cut out for that, man.
Yeah.
I'm an artist. I'm a creative person. And I feel like maybe that was a conflicting gig, at least in my mind. And so after that, I ended up coming off the road, and I got a gig with Jimmy Hall from Wet Willie. He called the week after I got canned from the tour, and said, man, I need somebody to come out and play with me, and this, that, and the other. And so we went and did the Delbert McClinton Blues Cruise and the Southern Rock Cruise. And
what was his big song? Was it
Keep On Smiling?
Yeah, Keep On Smiling.
Yeah, and
great singer.
Yeah, too. And unbelievable, still to this day, 73, 74 years old, and the dude sings better than 98% of the people out there.
Yeah.
He's just unbelievable. And so that was a great learning experience. And then I ended up getting a gig with one of the American Idols, Casey James, big-time guitar player, great dude. Had some success at country radio with a song called Crying on a Suitcase. And then that led to a gig where I got a phone call. Hey man, you got a hole in the schedule with Casey. There's a chick that's, also managed by his management that needs some help. Could you do these dates? And I said, yeah, sure.
As a guitar player.
As a guitar player. And they said, is Wednesday or something. Can you be ready by Friday? I said, yeah, sure. Here's 13 songs, learn them all. You got 1 4-hour rehearsal before you fly out. And our first show was in Rapid City, South Dakota, on the Ride Out tour with Bob Seger, and that was with Claire Dunn.
Yeah.
And so played with Claire for about a year and a half, and I was able to see a lot of the back end of how the touring world worked, and I thought to myself, man, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm a singer naturally. And I thought I'm ready. I'm ready to come back at it. And I didn't at the time have the songs. So I felt like that was kind of the first step.
Yeah.
It's got to get the songs that represent who I am now. And that was kind of where the whole Kyle Daniel thing started.
So how did you shift from being kind of a sideman for different artists, touring artists? How'd you go from that to signing your own deal?
I think I just took a step. I think that was the biggest thing, that it was once I got the songs that I felt like were representative, and I had 4 or 5 at the time, and called some of my buddies that played with Brothers Osborne or Justin Moore or Brent Cobb at the time, and put them all together in the studio. We went to Welcome to 1979, cut them live to tape, and And it was just like, man, let's dip our toes in the water and see what happens, because at that point I had nothing to lose, really.
Right.
I could still go back and play guitar for somebody else if this wasn't something that was going to take off. And fortunately, Hangover Town got in the hands of Joe Hudak at Rolling Stone Country. And he was the very first person to write about Kyle Daniel as an artist. And so he put me on one of the songs you need to know for the month that it came out. And the rest for me was just kind of like history, that was gas right out of the gate. One of the biggest publications that you can be mentioned by. And I was trying to fumble, hire PR, do this, that, and the other, and really kind of support this thing at that time. And so it was nice to see it right out of the gate start to catch a little success.
It's like when you start playing golf and first time out you hit a hole in one and
yeah, right.
And it's like, oh no, I need to really figure out how to do this.
Exactly. Yeah, I need lessons. I need a bag. I need new clubs. I need, I can't be using these hand-me-downs. But yeah, it was really cool to see kind of how it all opened up and came to fruition, and I think people just took to it,
So you've got a song creating some noise. Was this before you got an official record deal?
Yeah,
this was all on your own?
Yeah. I didn't actually sign my record deal until last year, and I started touring in 2019 as Kyle Daniel. We started the whole year off with the Southern Rock Cruise and toured with Blackstone Cherry. We did some shows with Charlie Daniels and the Marshall Tucker Band, played festivals. And, we were really fortunate that first year to play a whole lot. This was obviously pre-COVID, when COVID actually hit, I was overseas about to open up one of the spotlight stages for the Country to Country Music Festival that had Eric Church, Cadillac 3, and a whole laundry list of people that were. I was already over there, and I remember my manager woke us up at 2 a.m. and said, "Dude, they've come on the airwaves and said that we're shutting the borders down Friday at midnight." This was Wednesday going into Thursday, and
yeah, I remember it. I was over there at the same time, and I made it back a few days before they shut everything down.
Unreal. And I remember the uneasiness of that moment, that it was nobody really knew what was happening. There was, a little bit of fear in the entire situation.
Especially for touring musicians. I mean, a lot of people could still go to jobs if they were essential jobs.
Right.
But man, for a musician, for me, I go, what's more essential than a musician?
Right.
But man, that had to be, if that's your sole source of income, that had to be just freaky.
It was. And, and obviously the emergency flights to get home weren't cheap. No. And it kind of blew the majority of my budget for the record at that time. And this was in March of 2020. And then I ended up putting this whole all-star group of players together and going down to Muscle Shoals, holed up in a mansion for a whole week and just recorded this record like they would have back in the day. Eat, sleep, breathe, studio, walk downstairs, hit record, and get it going, And that was in the fall of 2020. I spent all of 2021 trying to shop this thing, hearing no left and right, because at that time, it wasn't the time to be pitching new material because everybody was worried about holding on to what they had and making that something. And
they weren't signing a lot of new acts at that point.
No, not at all. And then I remember in 2022, I ended up going back over for a reschedule of the Long Road Festival, which was I was booked for in 2020. And that was kind of what started the whole ball rolling with SnakeFarm, the record company. And so, just last year it became a thing. So it's been 2 EPs and a whole record that is kind of starting to get sprinkled out now. Before I was able to secure that.
Yeah, I want to talk just a moment about your songwriting process because when we wrote together, we've written one song together, and you came in and you had a guitar riff going. You kind of had an idea of what, did you have the title?
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming in with a idea, a direction that you wanted to go in, and you had the guitar riff. Is that typically how you write?
Always write from a title.
Yeah.
I almost always write from a title.
And that was kind of the Nashville way of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, when I was at MTSU, I took enough courses to probably major in songwriting as well. But it was, I may have been like one class short or something. But I remember Hal Newman was very essential early on, and Lauren Mulrain, both professors at MTSU at the time, that kind of helped guide and direct that process for me, you know, and showing that there are different ways to get there, you know, that there are 2 million different ways to make it happen. And I think that I found once I moved to Nashville, especially, and started writing with professional songwriters, that writing from the hook, that's the main idea. That's where it starts. That's the nucleus, you know, that without that, you really just kind of grabbing for stuff, you know?
Yeah, and I think it gets, if you throw out a title in the room and everybody's into it, it gets everybody on the same page.
Right.
My friend Tim Johnson used to say it's easier to get where you're going if you know where you're going.
Right.
So that title kind of, okay, here's where we're going, and you just write to that title. And
it gives you a bullseye, which is nice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you can start out with something, you as an artist, you have a feeling, I need this kind of song for my record. And if you have that title that fits that slot, it just makes it a lot easier.
Right.
Not that the goal is easy, but...
Right, yeah, no. But I mean, it definitely helps when you can kind of support an idea with a title, with a riff, that you give some sort of idea versus like just a random thought that you have to kind of dissect through to find what it is that you're really looking for.
Yeah, I mean, because the reality is you can walk in and have a title and get something written that day, or you can walk in and kind of, you know, try to find your way in the darkness, and you may or may not come up with something great. So,
yeah. I think your chances when you can kind of support with a riff, a melody, or you know, maybe even just a couple of lines to a main title, when you can kind of get the motion going, I think everybody's more apt to jumping on board at that point, you know. And so it does make it a little bit easier to navigate those waters, because like you said, I mean, sometimes you start kind of getting in the weeds with some of these songs and you're like, oh, okay, well, we're not gonna figure this one out today. We're gonna need another, you know, at least 1 or 2 sessions to figure it out. So.
Yeah, and if from an artist standpoint, if you're writing with a great songwriter that day, you want to get the most out of the day.
Right.
Just like if I'm writing with an artist, I don't want to show up to write with you or Darius Rucker or whoever and just take a chance that we may figure something out.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So a lot of times I do like to come up with stuff in the room, like if an idea jumps out of conversation, but I always have something in my back pocket that we're
writing for a purpose. I feel like that. And a lot of times, you know, it's good to get with your buddies and just kind of go, all right, let's crack open a couple beers and sit on the back porch and smoke some cigarettes and talk about, you know, life and what's going on, and just see what may flower out of this. You know, that's always fun. But I also find it to be more rewarding and more precise when you go in with that kind of main idea. For me, it definitely helps.
So let's talk about your new album, Kentucky Gold.
Yes, sir.
What was your thought pattern going into this album? How did you want to create something that was different than what you've done in the past that your audience would relate to? Did you have a game plan going in, or did you just write and pick the best songs?
Initially, I wanted to write a concept record. And I had enough songs that were kind of in the same world. And then I started as an artist kind of overthinking it and thinking, man, is anybody going to get this? Like, are they going to understand where I'm going with this or whatever? And then I was like, okay, well, let's maybe take the reins off the concept record. And let's just do what you just said, find the best songs.
Right.
And because at the end of the day, the best song wins. And so I wanted to be as representative of who I am in my life right now as an artist as I possibly could. So it's kind of been an ongoing theme that this is a 30,000-foot view at who Kyle Daniel is as a man, as a husband, as a dad, as an artist, as a writer and creative person. What all aspects of my life can I give to people? And I think that that's one thing that I have tried to be vulnerable on this record and tried to show sides of myself that I haven't before. I think that it stands, for me at least, has stood the test of time because there are songs on the record written around like the, 2020s, and they're still relevant, 4 years later, that we're still sitting here in this kind of state. And I think that not to be political or one way or the other, but some of these songs we're talking about that time, and we're still having those kind of issues right now. And so to me, I feel like this was my way of kind of opening the doors to myself as an artist. I put out 2 EPs prior, and I called it Kentucky Gold because I felt like these were the best songs from my soul. And it was a little bit like digging for gold, to be honest, that they don't just surface. So we kind of navigated the waters of my catalog of songs. And I felt like the collection itself is probably the best collection that I could have put together to give you just an overall roller coaster of who's Kyle Daniel, what's he about, what is, why is he important or special, So.
Yeah, it's like looking through your photo album back when we had those things.
Yeah. And it's funny because today I actually released a song called Me and My Old Man in preparation for Father's Day this Sunday. And, I sent family photos and old VHS tapes and like family footage to the label and management. And it's like, man, some of that stuff you just you can't put a price tag on it.
Yeah.
My grandmother in 2 weeks, we're having a birthday party for her 100th birthday, and so we were looking through pictures yesterday that we're going to kind of create a collage with. And
wow,
there was one. She was 4.5 months old. I was like, this is the oldest picture I think I've ever held in my life. Like, this is insane that we still have this.
It existed, almost 100 years ago.
Exactly. And just wild to think, how all those things happen.
Awesome. Well, that might be a good segue to you playing your
all
song
right.
for your dad.
Yeah. Let's do it. Looking back, looking up at all the things he wanted me to be, and everything that I was given, never saw it really being me. He knew just what was best for me. I was different from the rest. That's what he believed. He showed me wrong from right. Don't back down from a fight, 'cause a real dream never needs a backup plan. We both built the common ground where I still stand. Me and my old man. I was young, I wouldn't listen, never knew what I was really doing wrong. There was a line out in the distance, and I should have seen it all along. Before I had to let him go, set aside all of my pride, 'cause I had to let him know. He showed me wrong from right. Don't back down from a fight, 'cause a real dream never needs a backup plan. still stand. Me and my old man. Seems like I miss him more, 'cause every day keeps flying on by. Wish I could hear his voice, hear him say it one more time. That he showed me wrong from right. Don't back down from a fight, 'cause a real dream never needs a backup plan. We both built the common ground where I still stand. And I pray that he's still proud of who I am. Me and my old man.
Kyle Daniel. Check him out. We'll see y'all later.